with John Pannozzo. We're here to showcase his software, ColorByte. John, can you give us a little overview of ColorByte?
Sure. We're a 35-year-old company. We mostly focus into the photography and fine art arena. We're probably the largest software print provider in that arena. And we do an awful lot with printing of art, right, for decor and wall art. And we do a secure back end for a company called Exchange, which is a repository of copyrighted art from all the art publishers all over the world. And more and more people started coming to us, asking us to support UV printers to do textured art printing. And we started looking into and developing what we're going to show you today, which is our feature called Pedestal, which is all about creating the texture maps on the fly for flat artwork or flat photography. And then also a braille component, which we added out of popular demand to include that in to the mix. So ImagePrint is the product, and it's a full-featured RIP, and so it'll handle all your your day-to-day production work. But now with the added benefit of being able to quickly do texture printing and braille in RIP, so no third-party software required in order to do that.
That's fantastic. It really streamlines the workflow, so you're doing all of the design work and from that same screen.
Correct. Yes, and it's extremely fast. We did our own fast texturing mode for the Mimaki UV flatbed printers, so production and speed was at the utmost. And an added benefit to that is if you have a model that doesn't support 2.5D, there's no problem because we're doing our own 2.5D. So it'll support all the models.
So what brand UV flatbeds did you support?
At this point, only Mimaki. So we chose Mimaki because we looked at everything that was out there, and we felt that Mimaki gave the widest range of options when it came to size and features in UV printing. And so we put all our efforts into supporting just Mimaki for these features.
Absolutely. So can you tell us a little bit of kind of like how your AI produces the texture so fast?
Sure. When we started looking at texture printing, one of the things that we saw right away was it was just a mystery black box of how to properly produce the grayscale file for texture printing. And one of the things that we saw was people were taking files into Photoshop and then either desaturating them or doing some sort of conversion based on color.
And it doesn't always
luminescence. Right. Right. And so they got a texture out, but it just wasn't an accurate texture. Right. So if you had a subject matter, for example, of let's just say we'll show like a flower in nature or some sort of object that had depth to it, right, in the scene itself, that object wouldn't always end up in the right place, or it wouldn't be, elevated where it should have been in regards to other items in the scene. And so what we did is we developed an AI engine that runs locally, so it's extremely fast, but we can actually build a depth map in fraction of a second for most images, and then give you control over that depth map so that you can compress the foreground to the background, the objects, which ones you want to stand out. If you have texture in the background you want to bring out, it's easy to do that. We'll show you that when I do a quick demo. And then it gives you control over the amount of texture you want to add back in. Do that, and it's just all happens within seconds. Literally, you hit apply, and we build that texture file. We automatically load it as a layer, so the user doesn't need to know how to do any of that. And from the user standpoint, all they have to do is tell us how high they want. And the software takes care of everything else. device.
So what kind of files can you work with? Is it strictly vector, strictly or pixel?
No, so we work with basically all your popular file formats: TIFF, JPEG, native Photoshop, PDF. So all of the popular file formats we support.
And I know one of the features that you mentioned by popular demand is that you have the AI design tool that goes along with this, and then on top of it, you also send it directly from there, and you get compliant size prints.
Yeah, as far as Braille goes.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things that that we looked at with Braille was so many people were handling it outside of the RIP, and when doing that, creating your Braille text, your font in, let's say, Illustrator, for example, and then bringing that into the RIP, it was up to the user to become compliant. Right? So the user had to have knowledge of not only how high the Braille should be raised, how high the font should be raised. There's a pictogram, there's a special height for that too, right? And then the RIP having the ability to raise all of those at the correct level, because they're different from one another. And then the shape of the Braille dot itself had the proper dome on it, the proper feel and texture to it. So all of those things the user would have to know how to do, which is very difficult, if not impossible for most users. And that dot could be different from printer to printer based on the print heads and how that particular model plays down each. So what we did was we actually designed a Braille dot for each model, right? So we engineered that dot, and that dot is hard-coded into our software. So when you, even if you were to create your ADI graphic file in Illustrator or outside in another package, as long as you give the specific items a special spot color name that we designate, when that file loads into ImagePrint, we will replace the Braille dot with the proper dot. So the user doesn't need to know anything. So the dot gets replaced, the proper height gets set, and we'll show you that in the demo. But it literally allows compliant Braille, to be done by anybody. And that was sort of the important thing we were after, was to take the mystery out of how to do this.
And I know you create your own special profiles for this, but are customers limited to your profiles?
No, so it supports all Mimaki profiles that would commonly be used with raster link. So you can just automatically drop them into our color folder, and they'll be seen and can be selected by the user. And then eventually, because we're known for our color, eventually as we get the stuff rolling and we get more exposure to the different models, we'll start to build our own profile library that will be made available. And that's all built into the software with what we call our Profile LA, which automatically updates every time we launch the software. And that'll give it extra access to the color profiles that we provide.
Awesome. So I'd like to pick up just a couple samples. I think we'll have an opportunity to look at these again after the demo, because they make a little bit more sense. But I do want to show, what a wonderful texture it's creating for the Braille and ADA signs. It's very clean, and just so you guys can see, this is done on paper. So he's able to create this texture on paper without really warping it. Of course, this is a characteristic of the paper itself, but even with that kind of buildup, we're able to maintain a nice flat sign. Then this is one of my favorite samples. This is a couple of the sample images that John likes to show, because it really shows off the height difference between the background and the foreground. How it's able to differentiate between the two. Or if you want to, actually, could you tell us more about this? You could probably describe this a lot better than I can.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is the actual buildup of ink, and how we built the texture file, how the software built it to allow some texture in the background, but not a whole lot of buildup, right? And so what you're after, especially with art, is you don't really need to go all that high. I think this is at the highest with this is 0.8 millimeter of a millimeter. But what you get is the reflection of light off the image that just makes it stand out and look like something special.
Okay. Yeah, and something we talked about before a little bit was that, I recently saw that there was a startup for a personal UV texture printer that said, oh, we can build up to 5 millimeters. Does that really make any sense? Because like this, it has so much texture. It has it gives it such a a higher value look. It looks like a painting. Do you see a need for something higher than?
No, and we don't limit the user to how high they can go. That's all a function of the printer. But there is a point where there's just no value. There's no return on going, any higher. You're just going to use more ink and take more time to do it. What you're really looking at, something that's going to hang on the wall, is you want to get to that level where the light really reflects off of that print, where the viewer knows that that's something different than a piece of flat art.
Great. Well, then at this time, I'm going to ask John if you be so kind as to give us a demo.
Yeah.
And then after the demo, we'll be available for question and answer.
Sounds great.
All right, hopefully everybody can hear me and see my screen. So let's first look at ImagePrint and do a quick overview. We'll go from left to right. You're gonna have a floating tool palette here, which is primarily image specific, allows you to do some things to an image on the page very quickly. We have our image browser. You can have as many of these as you want. Just point them into the folders that you want to view images into. And our dashboard, which gives you a quick overview of all your settings. We try to eliminate nested menus as much as possible, so everything's in one glance kind of UI. So I'm on my Mimaki printer. I'm set to the maximum bed area for my printer, and we have our profile loaded, and we have our print mode set, and now it's just a matter of bringing in an image. Let me delete this one off the screen. I'm just going to drag it over to the layout window. So the layout window right now represents the entire bed area. And as I work with images, it's a WYSIWYG environment. So where I put them is where they'll print. So we can set it to always print at the origin point, which is what I have now. I'm looking at the page origin as my lower right, but I can also set this to the page layout, which will then print things WYSIWYG to as you see them here. So I have this photograph right here, and what I'm going to do is go into my AI depth map, and it'll go ahead and generate that depth map, and we'll take a look at some of the features here. So what I'm going to do is remove the texture so that we're just dealing with the actual depth map itself. And you can see I can remove it and control the compression of that map from the foreground to the background. And then we have our texture, and we'll go ahead and start bringing some of that texture back in. I have some texture in the background here that I want, so I'm not going to go ahead and take my pedestal all the way to the max, because that would block off any texture coming through back here that's perfectly black right now. So what I'm going to do is back that off a bit to where I see a little bit of texture, and we can zoom in here and take a look at the actual depth map and how we control that in real time. So when I'm happy with what I've created, I just hit apply, and I can still resize this image and bring in additional images. Each image can have its own texture map, so I can be printing, my entire bed area of multiple images with different maps all at the same time. we want to take a look at my layers. I'm going to go into my composite settings, and we can see that it loaded the texture map right here. All I need to do is tell it how high I want that, and then I can control my other layers. So I have my emboss or my texture layer, and then we're going to print white on top of that. Then we print our color layer, and then our clear layer. But if I wanted to remove a layer, I can just highlight it and remove. Select my fast texture mode, say OK, and I'm ready to hit print, and the printer will immediately start printing this file in 2.5D. It's literally that simple. Let's take a look at some other images. An ImagePrint set, if you fill up a bed or have an image that won't fit, it automatically creates a new page or a new bed to lay out in, so you can do multiple at the same time and queue those all up, and they'll just wait to be done. I'm going to move this image back over to my first page and go into the depth map for it. Now for this image, I don't want any texture in the background, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put the pedestal to full and look at my texture. The way that the depth map works, it's kind of like a camera lens looking at a scene. So the lens knows even that this table is in front, is closer to the lens than other items in this. And we can remove that perspective on certain images if we want to. But if I zoom in here, we can see all that wonderful texture that's going to be created and printed. Very realistic, and that's the main thing of being able to produce a realistic texture file in such a vast amount of time. And again, literally, that's it. You're done. Hit apply. And again, for these composite settings, we can see, that's already loaded in place, ready to go. Turn on my fast texture for it and tell it how high I want it to go. Say I wanted 48 layers on this. I can just put that in and hit OK. And again, I can position these on the page where I want them and size them, and it'll be ready to print. So as far as creating these texture files, extremely easy and powerful to do. And let's move on and show some Braille features here. I'm going to load a ADA sign. This one already has Braille in it, and I'm going to go into my ADA production mode, and I'll move this onto my screen here. And in this PDF file, we can see that it found two spot colors, one called Braille, one called texture. And these are what I said, as long as you name those items the proper name, we'll automatically separate those in the PDF file and then give you control over those. I can turn those off, for example, and you can see them disappearing from the texture layer. So anything I have selected with these special names are going to be automatically raised and built at the proper ADA specifications. So all I have to do is say apply and nothing more. I'm ready to print this, and it will print with the proper compliant dot and height for every element into the file itself. I wouldn't have even needed to go into that window. I just wanted to show you the ability to turn on and off those spot color layers. But whenever you are building for production mode, if you're generating these files and you're naming those spot colors, simply bringing them into the interface is all you need to do. It's going to do everything else behind the scenes when it starts printing. So it's as simple as that. Let me load a file that doesn't have Braille in it, and we'll add some Braille to it. So this is my actual Braille and text feature, and I'm just going to type restroom. It knows to automatically make everything uppercase. It uses Group 2 Braille, so it's the proper Braille designation. And it also, if you can see here, there's a box around this Braille, and that is the compliant size for spacing. So I could space this anywhere here as long as I'm not infringing this outline. So we can even change the font size, for example. The font goes from the minimal ADA compliant to the maximum. It automatically looks at the fonts on your system and allows you to choose which ones are compliant for the use of Braille. It also handles multi-line Braille, so it will give multi-line text, but put all the Braille in one line and center that to the text itself. Very simple to do. Again, it creates the texture file on the fly, hit apply, and that texture file is created, you're ready to print. As simple as that. And one of the things that I didn't show for in another case of Braille would be if you wanted to put Braille on or underneath an image. For example, I right mouse click, I can say add Braille, and I can now choose to add Braille to any object that I want to put Braille underneath. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to create ADA signage for office buildings and hotels, hospitals, things like that. But it also allows you to add Braille into other unique applications as well. Now, another aspect of the RIP is the spooling system, and it keeps track of all your print jobs, and we can come down here and look at some of those print jobs that we showed samples of. If I wanted to reprint a job, it's as simple as moving it back up to the active queue. It does all your error logging over here if there's anything that pops up that needs to be attended to, and just gives you a wonderful spooling system to aid in your production work. Now, this is a full-featured RIP. I'm not going to go into a lot of the other features because the main purpose of today was to introduce you to the texture printing and the Braille functionality. So maybe at some other point we'll get into a more general overview of some of the features. It's very extensive of things that you can do in ImagePrint. And because we're more of a visual RIP, we're more designed for creative users, it fits really well with printing to a flatbed UV printer. And with that said, I think we'll throw it back to Hugo and open this up for questions and see if there's anything people want answered.
Thank you, John. That's really exciting stuff. I really like you can put a ADA pretty much on any image. And just how fast it is with the grade 2 Braille, with the proper spacing and all that. And I think that's one of the things that gives people a little trouble. So, I mean, your explanation makes it look really, really simple. Like, what kind of learning curve do you expect to have with new customers?
I don't think there's, what we've seen with our existing user base, and this is just adding some additional functionality. If somebody's already familiar with the printer itself, using the software is probably no more than an hour or two in front of it to really get a feel for the workflow, because it's just so visual and straightforward.
Okay,
we do also
awesome.
have a video library on our YouTube channel that, you know, goes feature by feature on videos on how to do things. So that is available for training.
That's awesome. And I know, you know, I'm asking for myself, but we also have someone else asking, when do you think we might be able to get our hands on these?
So right now, everything that I've seen and that you've seen in the demo is working and ready to go. We're finalizing the fast texture mode for all the different Mimaki models, and once that is done, and I'm going to say about 30 days, maybe under that, we'll be ready for, you know, full go to market with that. We're already like on the 6042, and this needs to be done on every single model, is all the different ink combinations, because that affects the fast texture mode, how many channels you can use simultaneously based on the ink combination you have loaded in the printer. So we're just finalizing that on each model, and then we're ready to go.
Okay, that's awesome. And we do have one of our esteemed dealerships asking if they might be able to get a demo copy for their office.
Yeah, sure. We'll have that available, you know, as we connect with the dealers individually that want to carry the product. We can that'll be provided with that agreement.
Okay, that's awesome. And if anyone else has any questions that they haven't put in, just raise your hand and we'll actually unmute you. We don't generally open mics, but I think it'd be a great opportunity since we still have everybody here today. So yeah, if there's any other questions or you'd like to ask John directly, we can go ahead and turn on your mics. And we will have these, you know, we'll make an announcement as soon as these are available. We'll have them at each of our demo centers, and we are going to be training our print solution specialists. So we'll be able to show you how we use it in our demo rooms. We have a couple more questions. Is this going to require a key, or is this like a key fob situation for licensing?
Yeah, the license does require a dongle, correct.
No, okay. And then, as you mentioned, you know, this will be working with all of our flatbeds eventually. I know right now you've been working. You mentioned you're working more with the UJF series. Are you expanding this to the larger flatbeds?
Yeah, so we already support the 200 series. We're just finalizing the fast texture mode for the different ink combinations.
Okay. And then we have someone asking if you can give us an idea of where you think the price might land for this.
The price is going to be, retail price will be $39.95.
Okay, I think that's a great value, especially for the markets that this is going to hit. They're also asking if this will be available, you think, for the JFX 600?
Eventually. So the 600 is a little different of a driver. It's actually easier. It uses basically a 2-bit format. So it will shortly follow for the 600.
Okay.
Mostly a testing thing that needs to be done. And a lot of that's just been waiting for the new Mimaki demo center to be open up and having the printers to test with.
Yes, we're not far away. We're very excited that the demo center is well on its way to being completed. So we'll definitely have you up there. And we did receive a question asking if this works in addition to Ratcheling, and I can answer that. Yeah, that you will be able to have both softwares on the same computer and run the printer from both. but so you will not be, giving up anything on Rashlink for to have this program in addition to it. I think we have questions, and if anyone, just a reminder, if anybody does want to, ask a question live, we will be. You can unmute yourself. Okay, we do have a couple more questions regarding support. How is support going to be handled for your software?
Yeah, so support is both by phone and email. We have a fabulous support department, so it's done directly by us.
Awesome, great. Okay, all right. It looks like we don't have any additional questions. And if there are, you are certainly welcome to email me at Gonzalez, my last name, at Mimaki.com. Haven't done this. I don't know why I said Mimaki USA. It's been a long time. And I will, work with John to get any additional questions answered. And we will be letting everyone know once this is out for purchase. Thanks for joining us today.